Owning these older Jump issues and seeing how much Togashi was struggling to draw Hunter x Hunter on a weekly basis is rough, man. This isn't even the most rough chapter in the magazine. So what you're seeing here is you're actually seeing Togashi's manga in the magazine on the right, and you're seeing the actual finished Takoban version on the left. And what this really showcases is this showcases the roughness of a schedule that can happen when mangaka is pushed on a weekly to weekly basis. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Inktalks here with Marshulartz. I am here trying to get 1K subs, and I'm going to be giving you guys content every Sunday and Wednesday. The biggest thing I would say, it would help to see you subscribe and or like the video and or comment down below. I'd very much appreciate it. Welcome back, Penguin Nation, and shout out to all the recent subscribers that are here, man. I know you guys are loving the content and doing that and peeping it. Today, we're actually here with an awesome individual, somebody I admire for his storytelling and ingenuity with writing and just everything in between when it happens. Shout out number one manga, man.
What's going on? What's going on? Bento fandom, Penguin Nation, number one fans. How you guys doing? It's me, number one manga. I am the author and artist behind Akuronin and the up-and-coming manga, Nameless, all published under Limbenta. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good today, man. Doing good. I appreciate you hopping on this video with me, man. I felt like, you were a perfect candidate to kind of hop on here and just chat with me about stuff. I know we had a couple different options for topics, and I felt like, either one of them were going to be good to kind of chat with you with. So I'm glad we went with this one. So yeah, I mean, just kind of jumping into this so you guys can see more and more of it. Like, you guys can see that the roughness on the right is just uncomparable to the being able to be given the time on the left. I mean, Hunter x Hunter should not be a weekly series. It should be a monthly series or bi-monthly or every 3 months or even seasonal at this point, right? Because Togashi is somebody who is going through a lot in terms of bodily pain, and that's due to a harsh schedule. I mean, number one, what do you think about that stuff?
I mean, if you know anything about, the weekly schedule when it comes to manga, it's a brutal thing, and it's something that, I myself am not I'm not somebody who glorifies or hypes this kind of thing up. I find that the weekly schedule is kind of a bit of an inhumane type of situation. It's a bit of a situation where, you're sacrificing your livelihood, your life, and your health for content for people to read every week. And seeing it with Togashi, and because of course anybody who knows Hunter x Hunter knows Togashi, you know that his situation comes with a massive price, not just for his his workload when it came to Yu Yu Hakusho, but when it came to Hunter x Hunter, it came to a point to where him sitting down and drawing manga is painful within itself. I remember seeing something about it's difficult for him to sit down and do anything, like sit down even at the toilet and use the restroom. It's difficult for him to do so because of how worn his body is from doing this on a weekly basis, from doing this on a continuous situation, where now doing Hunter x Hunter chapters it's a chore within itself, not just the drawing aspect, but literally sitting down and doing it. It's just it's painful. And yeah, it's sad. It's really sad to see. It's really sad to hear.
Yeah, I agree, man. And it's like, just what you were saying, it's one of those things where Togashi has straight up said, hey, it's hard for me to do anything. I have something here from I'm trying to see if I can bring it over there, but I don't think it's let me grab it here. I have somewhere like this is what he was saying. This is how he would do. This is what how he would lay. And we're pleased. This is how he would lay. Currently, I can only draw in this posture. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see. Yeah, currently I can only draw in this posture. He would have to draw laying back, which isn't the best way to draw, but it is a way to draw. But it's like, what did he say? I'm sure you must be thinking, no, just continue the story. I have been able to sit in a chair to draw for about 2 years, but I have managed to resume writing by giving up the traditional way of doing things. Everyone, please take care of your hips. Until 2 weeks ago, before I wrote this, I was unable to wipe my own and had to take a shower every time I took every moment takes 3 to 5 times, and every movement takes 3 to 5 times longer than a learned person. The back is important. Therefore, I strongly recommend that you drop something at an exhibition. You should pick it up in the sitting posture the way Togashi is. Which, you know, this is him kind of doing this, which it kind of goes to show, man, like this is actually a crazy thing. You know, there's a lot of artists who glorify this. You know, they glorify, you know, oh, I want to be able to do weekly. I want to be able to do this. And I know some people who, you know, when they started their company either this year or last year, they're like, we're going to do what Shonen Jump did. And the reason why Lumbento doesn't do that is because of this stuff right here. One, I'm not trying to be a slave trade and be like, oh, you got to get this done in 6 days, 5 days, and 7 days. Because, you know, we've been watching Manben. We see that these guys fight against their deadline all the time, and not even all of them are weekly. You know, most of them are monthly or every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, right? And looking at this art, man, like I'm a huge component of crowd scenes. Like I love crowds. So it hurts me to see this. You know, it hurts me to see essentially this is a name. You know, this is essentially the name that he drew, and then it just got shit out, and you know, it's looks like this, and it sucks because, dude, I see this stuff and I'm like, damn, this could have been so much better had he been given time to actually draw this thing. And while the characters kind of look cool, like I guess in this first panel, I really wish we could have seen more characters in this one, but it's like, you know, he only has so much time, and you're when you're on this schedule, man, and you're not given the time to do this, it just really shows. Like it really does show, man.
Yeah, this is a common thing within particularly weekly series, particularly weekly magazines. This is very common. Just recently, and funny enough that we're doing this video, just recently, last couple of weeks, the author of Kaugrabatchi, Hokuzono, he went through a very similar thing where he went for, I believe, 2 to 3 chapters in terms of like basically 2 to 3 weeks drawing these chapters, and they're coming out the same quality as these Hunter x Hunter chapters, where it's like the characters aren't fully drawn, or the line art doesn't exist, or you still see the face cross markings. You know, like when you're trying to draw the face or try to place the face, you still see the sketches and that kind of stuff because he didn't have the time or didn't have the wherewithal to really finish those pages in time or get them fully finished and to a point where you can fully release them. And that comes from not necessarily just the scheduling aspect, but the fact that, like, if you're making a hit series, right, and you make a hit series and it's for, let's say, a weekly or bi-weekly series, most of the time you're doing more things than just drawing a manga. You're doing promotion, you're doing different things that you're doing promotion, you're doing stuff like ads, you're doing stuff like partnerships, collaborations, interviews, etc., etc. You're doing all these different things outside of just drawing the pages themselves, to where that takes away from your time to draw manga. I remember, like, because when it comes to Hokuzono, I remember Hokuzono, he not only went to Anime New York, I believe it's in Anime New York. He went to a con to basically sign books, right? Yeah. But he also had to have an entire interview structured. He had fan signings, if I'm not mistaken, an entire deal with Burger King, and then on top of that, he had to fly back to Japan and draw his chapters. And he had to
I want to stress right now, really quick, just to interrupt. Sorry, number one. I'm going to show some images from what number one manga is talking about, and this is your spoiler warning. It looks like this is later chapter stuff, so if you are watching this and you are a huge Kaugrabatchi fan and you don't want to be spoiled, just know that I'm going to be showcasing images to showcase what he's talking about. So this is your spoiler warning. You can skip ahead if you'd like, and if anything, I'm going to have a marker down below to let you know when these images are off screen, but for right now, they're going to be here. So 3, 2, 1, you can continue.
Yeah. So the issue is that when you're basically working a weekly series, or you're working in a situation where your deadline doesn't match the quality of the work that you had to actually put out consistently, it really eats away at not only you as a person, but it eats away at the work. And it's very, very, very noticeable. However, unfortunately, most people don't know the process that it takes to make manga. They don't understand the process that it is for publication to release a chapter. And so those people who don't understand that, it's not really right of me as a mangaka who's also a fan of manga to sit down and really talk negative about those kinds of people because they don't truly understand the process. They don't truly understand the situation. So I'm not going to sit here and say that someone is entitled or they're a prissy little brat and they don't get it, this and that. No,
Yeah.
it's ignorance because you don't understand it. But what most people don't understand is that these guys are working their bodies, their souls, and their mental to put these things out every week. And then when you do that for more than a year, let's say more than 1 year, more than 2 years, but in Tagashi's case, more than 10 years of his life has been dedicated to manga.
Yeah.
More than 10 years have been dedicated to manga, including Yu Yu Hakusho, which was his first series that he never finished because he went through a form of burnout because of that.
Yeah.
And that translates all the way over to Hunter x Hunter. Even though he loves Hunter x Hunter, that translates into the physical aspect of the art and the artwork and him sitting there and drawing. So when you're doing this for 5+ years on a weekly basis, yes, you have a large catalog of chapters. Yes, you have a good catalog of volumes. However, your physical health takes a toll and takes a nosedive to where a point where you have to situate where you're in a situation with like how Togashi is, where you can't even sit down to draw the thing that you love to do, and
Yeah.
that's something that most people don't really understand.
Just to kind of compare these two, and I really want to stress this. So right, so Togashi probably doesn't have help as of right now, and I say this because of this. If you look at this manga here that Togashi has, you see that his backgrounds, his characters all have this even roughness, right? And you can see this throughout each of the pages, even in this one, like the background is the same roughness as the characters, right? But if you look over here and you look at Kaugrabatchi, the backgrounds have a different rendering than the art does, which means that there's a background artist still assisting with this. One, because it's a popular manga, so it's newer and it's going to have that. So the artist and the background artist, the main person who's having this, like you can even see it, especially in this one, the main person who's having these issues is the core artists themselves, not the background artists, not these other artists who are having this burnout. It's the main artists themselves. And as a manga artist myself, a manga artist yourself, and everyone else on the team, like you said, interviews, extra promotional art, things that are for ads, things that are for social media, brand deals, all these things, they do tie into one's well-being. And while I myself push myself pretty hard, going for myself, you guys, everything, me and Karuto, we do what we do in the background. I still get my 8 hours of sleep. I still get my exercise. I still make time for my family. And it's thankfully I'm not on a weekly schedule, or else I wouldn't. We're on a monthly schedule because Lumento is a monthly publication. And that allows us a lot more time to do things. It still doesn't allow us a crap ton of time, but it allows us a lot more time than it would this. And so when we're looking at like again, a Kaugrabatchi, you still see the backgrounds are rendered pretty well, but the characters in the backgrounds are affected, which always goes to show that it's the main artist at hand who's being affected by these. Now, my biggest thing is manga at this point should be relegated to bi-weekly if it's or every 3 weeks. You know what I mean? I think bi-weekly would be even better because it'll give an artist time to relax, take a couple days to literally catch up on sleep and some family time, And I understand it, and I always think that weekly at this time in life is an archaic system that needs to be dismantled and put back together in a new format. Not so much as monthly, but definitely bi-weekly, if anything, man. Just because it's like, even bi-weekly will give you enough time to do other stuff. It's a full 14 days as a verge to a full 5, 6, or 7 days. So
yeah, I mean, this is a situation where it's a mixed effort. This has to be a mixed effort, not only in terms of the magazines themselves to take this into account, because the magazines have, essentially been more aware, if not had the fire kind of lit under their ass, because they have no choice but to kind of do this. You notice that a lot of weekly mangaka have gotten the opportunity to take more breaks.
Yes, which is good.
Back before, like around Hunter x Hunter time, Bleach, Naruto, etc., breaks were very few and far between. It was very difficult to get one because this wasn't really world spread information or knowledge that people could really harp on, especially with the fact that the internet was very young at the time. So
Yeah.
forums and social media weren't really an aspect that, mangaka, I mean, the manga, editors and people who own stockholding and that kind of stuff in terms of Shonen Jump and that kind of stuff, they didn't really have that type of outpour from fans who were saying things that pushed them to do this kind of stuff. But after the unfortunate passing of Kentaro Miura,
Yeah.
things really started to shift. There were a lot of breaks that were being taken. There was a lot of people who were affording more breaks. Like you see with Oda right now is that he tends to drop like 2 chapters, then goes for a 2-week break. Like
Yeah.
it's a very common thing that he does now, but before that was very rare. That wasn't common. This wasn't a common thing. So the fire has kind of been lit under their asses. They understand that they can't keep doing this indefinitely or it will hurt their artists. It will harm their artists. And that's something that most people don't really, think about. But the other aspect of it that remember I said it's a two-ended thing with both, like, two sides need to in order to dismantle this or in order to reform this, both sides need to kind of make this known. And the other side is the audience's aspect. And the audience themselves need to not only be aware, but supportive of the aspect that maybe you don't need a chapter every week. Maybe you don't need to read your favorite series every single week on the dot, on the day, on the exact time. You don't need that exactly. Deadlines should be allowed to be a little bit more free, because not only does that improve the quality of the health of your mangaka that you love so much, but that also helps with the quality of the manga itself. Without the mangaka, you can't have the manga.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like, like I was showing in the Kaugrabatchi page, is like the health of the mangaka is mainstay, because even if the background looks pretty, the characters still look like shit. Everything else falters because you can't see character expressions, which, as we know, is one of the main importances of drawing any form or any genre of manga, is the facial expressions, being able to see what the character is going through.
Right.
We'll get into some of these comments here in a second, but I just want to say, if you guys want to see some awesome work from myself or from even Number One Manga, you can definitely head over to Levinto.net. You can go read Penguinboy, you can go read Akuronin, you can go read Rikusen, you can go read Saikyo, and you can soon go read On Light On when that drops as well. All amazing stories by talented people who actually care about creating manga and storytelling itself. So definitely head over there, check those stories out, and let us know what you think. And be sure to leave a comment down below. Let's get to these comments, and then we'll end the video. But someone said weekly manga should be illegal, LOL, even if some mangakas can take it in the beginning. In the long run, it will destroy you. And that was something we chatted about. It's it's something that isn't really as prominent nowadays. I mean, it was never really prominent. It was not prominent. It was never really a healthy thing to begin with. But in the beginning, that's what people were willing to do. It was like a badge of honor. You know what I mean? To go through and do these things, as stated by certain mangaka, a badge of honor to have certain health risks, to not health risks, but to have health problems, to be like, oh, that means I'm working harder. And it's like, nowadays, it's like, no, you will literally die.
It's still seen as a badge of honor, not necessarily in terms of the Japanese, but here in the United States, like, it's always a badge of honor to see who does the most work or who's working the most within the industry. But it's never about, hey man, how's your health, or how is your scheduling, or are you doing this thing within your story? Are you conveying the narrative that you're wanting to convey that is going to inspire people to do this as well? Because, like, whether we like it or not, that's our job as mangaka. We're here to bring imagination. We're here to basically free people's minds, entertain them, and hopefully inspire the next generation of mangaka to continue this trend. Like,
I agree.
If we're so focused on how many pages we can complete within 10 years, if we're so focused on how many volumes we have out, in the span of a year, if we're so focused on I'm working a weekly schedule and I'm putting out chapters every week. If we're so focused on these things that are realistically, let's be 100% honest, this is nothing more than dick measuring contest. If we're so focused on essentially impressing each other, we're not focused on the things that matter. And that is something that I think that is holding not necessarily the manga industry back, but that's what's holding a lot of the indie manga industry back. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah, we can chat about, we'll bring on another person one of these days, and we'll chat about that, because I think that'd be an interesting conversation as well. But Reading this next comment, honestly, even monthly magazines have their fair share of problems too. Goku Rock Guy has a couple of chapters with unfinished art. I just think manga should be able to take more than 3 breaks a year without the fear of being axed. That is a big one, and I think that's the last comment I'll read. But that's a big one to me because I remember showing you when I was reading Goku Rock Guy the unfinished pages. I think it was in volume 1, the
Mhm.
like when they're in that little corridor place and the
Yeah.
monster coming out. I remember reading that on Shonen Jump like, what the hell is this? And I remember we chatted about it, and then when I got the volume, it was finished, and I was like, wait a minute, what? And I had to go back on the app, just like what this person is doing with Togashi, and being like, hold on, oh, that's Twin Star, which is another dope manga. Shout out number one manga for telling me to go read that. But I had to go back and look at the Viz Media app and the volume and be like, oh, these are just mad different. The artist didn't get a chance to complete this. And it was either due to time constraints or health concerns, which I don't know if Goku Rakagai, the artist for that, has ever had health problems. They might have, because that art is insane. The art for that is insane. But
Right.
just keeping it on Togashi and going and ending off on the Togashi part, I will say that if you are a manga artist and you are someone aspiring to be a manga artist, the biggest thing I could tell you is to take care of your health. Not everything is as important as you think it is if your health, because if your health starts to deteriorate, everything starts to deteriorate. And I say
Absolutely.
that as someone who watched his own father. It's going to get a little personal. I apologize if this is kind of morbid for some people. I say this as someone who watched his own father prioritize his family and a job over his own health, over his personal health. And that cost him his life. And watching him on his deathbed, he didn't care about anything but his health in that moment. And that wasn't to make me depressed or make anybody else depressed, but I got to see that firsthand. And I really realized in that moment that my health comes first above all else. And that's why, even though I run myself rampant, doing things for Lumento, doing things for myself, doing things for my fiance, my family, I make sure that I get my sleep. I make sure that I at least eat properly as I can. Of course, we all indulge, and
Yeah.
I do things that matter for me. I make myself happy in those things, because if you're not doing those things as an artist, a writer, a creative of any kind, whether it's film, poetry, you create sculptures, whatever, you have to make sure, if you're not focusing on your health, then you're going to be shortening your lifespan over time.
Yes, absolutely. Like this is, I want to give a little bit of advice, a little bit of personal advice. Something that I myself had to learn. With working a little bit bento, as well as as a manga growing. I'm always growing. Oh, at all times, I'm always growing. I'm
Yeah.
never, perfecting everything. Even if my story or my art reaches a level where it's like, yes, this is amazing, I'm still learning, man. Trust me. But this is the thing that I kind of want to give advice for, is with mangaka who are here in the United States, because I feel like this is something that they don't really know about. This is something that it's kind of a game changer. It's something that you can really hold on to, and it's one of those things that most people don't think about. If you don't finish something immediately, you can finish it later. And what I mean by that isn't like be procrastinate, like don't procrastinate, don't sit back and not do anything. What I mean is, let's say you finish a chapter, and the art doesn't look inherently good, or there's some unfinished stuff within your pages, and you want to stick to your schedule because you're stubborn like that. You don't want to just miss your schedule. Um, you can do those chapters and release those things. And then before the volume releases, go back and finish those pages, or go back and touch upon those panels and pages that you weren't able to do before. Most people think that you have to get it done immediately, otherwise it's a failure. You can't do anything about it. But just like these mangaka, just like Togashi, a lot of them finish these things later. And when they finish those later, they become the finished product that you see in the books. And most people don't really think about that, because they think the book, when they release the volume, that is the officially released thing. That's been released since like day one when the chapter drops. That is not
Mhm.
the case. Um, don't stress yourself out and deteriorate your own health because you yourself, either A, you have a level of pride that you refuse to acknowledge, or B, you feel like you're pressured into doing so because that's what the industry standard is. Do not do that to yourself. That is very reductive. That is not helpful to yourself. Just like Marshall said, he prioritizes himself. I do the exact same thing, especially my mental health. That's a very important thing for me. But Marshall, he prioritizes himself, and as a teammate, I myself always check up on him, and I always check up on the rest of the team, because we're a team, man. Like we care about each other. Like it's not one of those
Yep.
situations. we're working with each other, but Marshall's using me and he doesn't like me, that kind of stuff, right? And he's like, if you don't do this, I'm gonna have to ruin your career, some business like that. He's
Yeah.
from them situations, like, no, like, we're a team, we're homies. So it's a situation where you have to not only look out for yourself, but your teammates and your people around you, because they're also the people who are going to prop you up. So, like, yeah, that's essentially my advice.
Yeah, no, dude. Appreciate that. Go ahead and tell them where they can find you, my man. Go ahead and tell them where they can find you.
The ultimate place you can find me is on my Instagram, #1manga. Same thing as it's spelled here. #1manga is my Instagram. If you also want to find me on my TikTok, it is the exact same handle. I barely post on there, but when I do post, it's a little bit fun. So
yeah. All right, guys. I appreciate everybody coming. Penguin Nation, you guys are always awesome. Appreciate the recent subscribers. Go check out Aku Ronin, done by the talented #1manga over on Lumento.net. He is also working on the recently announced Nameless as well. That is a series that he's working hard and diligently on the background. And you can go read the newest chapter of Penguinboy, chapter 13, over on Lumento.net as well. Something I'm working on myself. Chapter 14 coming soon. That's a whopping 51 pages. So please bear with me as I continue to work and do stuff. Other than that, hashtag Penguin Nation, man. We're up out of here.